Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Shit. I'm your host Phoenix, and today I am joined with EON Zero, also known as EON Zero on Instagram. He's got 37,000 followers, and he's got over 80,000 followers or monthly listeners on Spotify. So EON, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
It's good, it's good. I like your I like your tats straight away.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I'm working on covering myself completely at the time.
Yeah. What was
Yeah,
the
a lot of
inspiration?
work to do. Um, a lot of people get tattoos and they're very meticulous about their choices.
Hmm.
I have never been that way.
Okay.
Um, the majority of my tattoos, I went in and I picked right before they put them on my body,
Mm.
either from their art or I used Pinterest. I was like, I like this and I want it on my body forever, and it was that simple.
Okay, so you're not like someone who's afraid of commitment, I guess.
No, actually, I would say I'm horrified of commitment, but this was a good way to combat. Um, I thought this would actually be a good way to combat that.
Okay,
If
yeah.
I was like, okay, let's make a permanent choice right now,
Mm,
and in practicing doing that, I think I've gotten better with commitment.
yeah. I get what you mean. I'm horrible with commitment, and I got my first tattoo a few months ago. And getting
Right
it
on.
felt weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't always feel good, and I'd be lying if I said I never had buyer's remorse on a tattoo.
Yeah, yeah.
Where I was like, maybe I shouldn't have got that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it always ends up being like I wanted it in that moment and I have to respect what I wanted in that moment,
Yeah.
and that made it okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So tell me how you got into rap. I've listened to a few of your songs. I listened to your album. Sorry, I'm bipolar,
Thank you, thank
and I
you.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me how you got into it.
Well, I've been in music my whole life, and when I was young, I started playing guitar at a very early age,
Mm.
and it was something I loved to do. I always wanted to be in music. I played trumpet in school, and I learned many other instruments, but I never really believed that I could be, a part of it for whatever reason, some lack of insecurity or direct cause of insecurity. I mean, and when I was 19, um, I decided that I wanted to try rap for the first time, which was really out of my network,
Yeah.
and I just fell in love with it.
Oh, yeah, okay. So how was the stages of getting into rap? Like, how did you start recording? Was it like a booth that you used? Did you use a setup at home?
So everything I've ever done has been by me. So when I first started rapping, I was recording into a video software called Adobe Premiere,
Mm-hmm.
because I was in film school at the time,
Yeah.
and that's the only software I knew how to do that handled audio at all.
Yeah.
Um, and it was an absolute nightmare. It didn't sound good, and I was recording in my parents' basement at the time. And then I eventually learned about other audio softwares that I switched to, and it's just kind of a slippery slope at that point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it says on your Instagram bio that you're Michigan's best engineer.
Yeah, it's somewhat self-proclaimed, but I've also worked with almost every major artist in in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been called that by so many people that are at a very high level.
Mm.
So I kind of adopted it, but I also feel confidently that I am.
Okay. So what would you say is
Yeah.
like your one of your greatest strengths when it comes like audio engineering?
So I think in order to discuss the strengths, I think we have to talk about the weaknesses of most audio engineers.
Okay.
And I think one of the greatest weaknesses is that they're not artists. So whereas they understand audio,
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand the artist.
Yeah.
So where I feel like I have an advantage is I know what it's like to be the artist. I am also a writer for a lot of people.
Mm.
Um, I write people's melodies as well. So It gives me the intrinsic ability to offer advice from a place that most audio engineers don't have access to.
Okay.
But something that makes me just a better audio engineer in general is a sickening obsession with making it perfect and being the greatest at it.
Mhm. Okay. That's interesting. I've always thought about like the strengths, but I've never actually thought about the weaknesses, as you say. It's a different take on the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all heard the famous saying, "Don't take my kindness as a weakness."
Mhm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I find that my greatest strengths lie where others people have weaknesses. But a lot of people, one of the biggest issues with engineering is there's a lot of studios where people just have no idea what they're doing.
Mhm.
I mean, I even know a lot of people that got professional education on on engineering, and their work just isn't good. You can't. I don't believe that you can teach engineering outside of the scientific, mathematic approach. And what works for most people, like where I should have this microphone,
Mhm.
um, and learning about frequencies, this, that, and the other. But what makes an engineer really good is them understanding the music that they're creating,
Mhm.
understanding the dynamic space and how it should be perceived by the audience. And I
Mhm.
think that stuff is just so valuable.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, what would you what would you say is your favorite part of audio engineering? Do you have a favorite, or is it all just kind of the same old?
I would say my favorite part of audio engineering is playing someone their song back for the first time.
Mm.
And I one of my favorite experiences, especially, is when people come from other studios where they're not used to sounding as good as they can,
Mm.
and then seeing the joy on their face when they hear themselves for the first time sounding like they belong on the radio.
Mhm.
I think that the the joy that they feel, I share that experience with them, and it's a blessing to share.
Mm. Okay. So we know with rap, the artists have their highs and their lows. So
Yeah.
what would you say, or how would you say you stay motivated through the lows?
Are you referring to like the highs and lows of life, or are you referring to the highs and lows of um hmm maybe not life, but like writing, like
Yeah.
writer's
Well.
block, things of
Yeah.
that
Well,
nature?
yeah. To give you a bit of background behind myself, I'm a ghostwriter as well. So I get what you mean with writer's block. So how do you personally combat that? Give me a few tips for myself.
Um, you know, Traditionally, I haven't really experienced a ton of writer's block. Anytime that I did, it was usually to a lack of experience.
Mhm.
Um, so, like for example, when I wrote my album, I felt dry for a little while after that, just because I feel like everything I needed to get off my chest, I got off my chest.
Yeah.
But being a ghostwriter is great because you have to learn a new skill of writing songs outside of your own network. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what that taught me to do was to take other people's experiences and write a song. I teach songwriting too, and I think a lot of people, when they're making music, they forget about the songwriting.
Mhm.
And the songwriting, in essence, is really it's just a segue. How do I want the audience to feel? How can I get them there? What is the instrumentation like? What can I say or sing that will invoke this emotion for the audience?
Yeah.
And what words are the best vessels to get them there?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And with rap, it's different. I'm referring mainly to like the stuff I do that's not rap, but with rap, it's like people don't like when other people are involved in rap.
Mhm.
Like with writing and such. That's what the whole debates with Drake are about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with rap, it's typically more of a I'm going to tell my story my way, and that's it. And I usually don't want a third. third party input. Give
Yeah.
me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry, I'm on vacation. They're playing ping pong out there. I closed the door.
It's fine. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We're back though.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you get much free time with your like line of work, or
No,
no?
people don't care.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, um, the amount of calls I receive the same day for studio time or sessions after explicitly saying no same day sessions is unbelievable.
Mm.
Um, it seems like the main narrative in the majority of the people I work with in the music industry is I want something now. And unfortunately, if I want to remain relevant, I have to, on some level, concede to that ideology.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So, going into your album, Sorry I'm Bipolar, a collective of mood swings. How did that album come about?
Half those songs I kind of already had,
Mm.
and I wanted just to have a nice body of work of songs I was proud of,
Mhm.
um, and like a culmination of something that I could hand someone and be like, hey, here is my work. It was always exhausting when people are like, oh, what kind of music do you make? I'm like, well, what kind of music do you like? And I would have to cherry pick items for them and say, well, I do this. Here's my most recent single. It sounds like this and this. I like that now I can give someone say, hey, here's a project of all of it,
Mhm.
um, which feels good. Um, as far as like the title, I mean, I am bipolar diagnosed,
Mhm.
and the cover art is actually if you bought the album, I don't have a copy with me. The
Yeah, I've
inside
got
cover is
it.
the
Yeah.
original picture,
Okay.
and it's the actual picture that the cover art was painted from,
Mhm.
and it's just a picture of me as a child, referring to so much too. With the bipolar message and the collection of mood swings, is that depending on how I feel depends on the type of art that I create,
Mhm.
and most of the art that I create is so hyper dependent on that, and being bipolar and having high highs and intense lows,
Yeah.
it creates such a valley in such a landscape for creative art to be created.
Mhm.
So we have songs like Save Me, and then we have songs like Be Mine coming right after it that are just worlds apart.
Yeah.
And I used to believe that people wanted a specific sound from an artist
Yeah.
because that's what labels are looking for. But I now believe that people want to fall in love with an artist and will like everything that they do.
Mm.
So I thought it was more necessary to remain authentic to myself more than my own brand.
Yeah.
So essentially changing my brand to be me,
Mhm.
you know? I wanted people to fall in love with me, not the songs. And the only way to do that was to just be fully authentic.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Uh,
it's proven to be working, so.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't get entirely what you're going through, but I'm diagnosed with bipolar as well, and mine's
Right,
the
right, right.
more depression side of it. Um.
Yeah, so mine's manic depressive. So I some weeks I'll go to the studio and make 12 songs,
Yeah.
and some weeks I'm very depressive and I make one song.
Mhm. Mhm.
But depending on the mood, depends on the type of song I create. Like I wasn't making "Save Me" on a day where I felt manic, and I
Mhm.
wasn't creating "No One" on a day I felt depressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I get. Yeah. I get what you mean. So, how d- how do you go about writing then? Is it just when you wake up and you get that kind of feeling of what your day's gonna be? Do you just go from there?
I typically try to find instrumentation first,
Okay.
and the instrumentation kind of there's a way that Rick Rubin describes writing for the artist as somewhat of receiving a transmission
Mhm. Mhm.
from space is
Yeah.
kind of how he describes it. And sometimes it feels like that, right? I play an instrumental and words just come to me.
Mhm.
And then there's other times where it's very manufactured, where it comes from like with Diamond, for example, it was a little bit of both. The hook was manufactured and the rest felt natural. So, it came of like thinking of an idiom and like a simple phrase, you lost a diamond,
Mhm.
and what could go around that would make that stronger,
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
while you played with broken stones, you lost a diamond, and then having the rest of the hook relate to the same kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
I don't remember the words to my own songs because I'm a bad person.
Yeah. No, I
um
get what you mean. Yeah.
I want to see if I have an
Thing is,
example here for you.
you being a rapper and a ghostwriter as well, you write tons of songs, so it
Yeah, I've
must
written
be
thousands of
difficult.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes there's been a lot of cases where I've written people's songs where I was like, that really should be for me because it's just too
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I get that. I get that.
Um, yeah. And strangely enough, I actually spend far less time on my own music than
Mm.
I do on my clients.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is, but it's just been a fact of nature.
Mm. It's like when I
Yeah.
write for people, I feel like I have to give the very best of the best. So I'm
Yeah.
working on weeks on a double entendre, whereas for me I'm just
Yeah.
venting. It's a very different dynamic, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, and it's strange because I feel um sometimes I'm writing for someone else and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I wish I could write like this for myself.
Mm.
And it brings up an interesting discussion for writers where I've started to implement this even with singers in my studio.
Yeah.
Or I had someone the other day and they were trying to sing this part and it just felt dull and flat.
Mhm.
And I said, who's your favorite singer? And they said, Beyonce.
Mhm.
And I said, I want you to sing this as if you were Beyonce.
Yeah.
And it created they didn't sound like Beyonce at all.
No. No.
But the performance that they gave, because they just stepped outside of their own body, was
Mhm.
so incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the same thing we experience when we're ghostwriting. So
Exactly. Yeah.
the question becomes, how do we tap into this as a resource
Mhm.
and train ourselves to disconnect just enough so that we can feel the perspective of the consumer,
Mhm. Yeah.
because I think sometimes we get lost in the artistry and we forget that this is to be digested by someone else.
Yeah.
Um, I just think there's a lot of value in that, and people forget how important it is. It doesn't matter how great you think it is if someone else can't understand.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's so to me, writing's like 75% like exactly how I want, and 25% of it is making sure it's digestible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I get what
it's
you mean.
interesting.
I mean, one of my personal favorite songs you've done is "No One" from
That's
your album.
You like
That's
that one, you said?
yeah, that's the one I'm pretty sure on Instagram where I first commented.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean that record was a lot of fun to make. My
Mm,
friend Jake Luke, he sent me that song and just the hook, and he had his own verse on it
yeah.
at the time. And I told him, I said, "Listen, man, I really like this. I think I can do something really great with this."
Yeah.
And he was kind enough to take his verse off and let me use the song.
Yeah.
Um, and that was just one of those instances where I wrote the verse in like 30 minutes and sent it back to him, and he loved it.
Mm,
And it's been crushing online too, so I
yeah.
feel like I did the right thing.
It's that bit where you kind of fast rap your first verse, and then you kind of end your Instagrams or reels or TikToks with like put your motherfucking hand down. That bit.
Y-
That's when it
Yeah,
kind of like dies down on the reel, and that bit has gone
yeah,
crazy online.
yeah. It's done well. I've had a couple of those reels do a couple 100,000
Mm.
views, and the song itself. Let me see here. is over 100,000 since it came out on
Yeah.
Spotify alone. So I mean, it's doing well.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see things like this, and it's being digested all over the world.
Mm.
And it's been added to thousands of playlists,
Yeah.
and it's exciting because when you put so much work into something,
Mhm.
and a lot of people, I think, forget. But I've been doing this for 10 years,
Mhm.
and it wasn't like this for a long time.
Yeah.
And people look at this and they say, "Well, I want to experience that."
Mhm.
And the dynamic should be, I want to put in the work so that I can experience that.
Mhm.
I think perspective is so valuable when discussing the success in music. It's really easy for even myself to get upset at certain artists for their success as if somehow they don't deserve it, or whatever nature I try to convince myself.
Yeah. So, talk me through your process then between like first hearing the instrumental and then you get that like sense in your brain like yeah, this is the instrumental for me. I'm right into this to actually
It's just
releasing the song.
personally, I think I have such a weird process. So to me, it was like hearing the instrumental. I love it, and I have my own recording studio, so I usually just immediately just grab my mic, pull it over to my desk. I'm either punching in every bar, freestyling a song, or I'm writing it, and I write really fast. So I think start to finish for a song like "No One" may have been 2 hours, including the mix and master
Mhm.
and the writing, and um, I just once I'm done with it, I don't change it.
Mhm.
So I might do a car test, and it's very rare that I'll change something after that.
Yeah.
So it's usually like a one fell swoop,
Mhm.
and the song is done, and I release it.
Yeah.
Like I just released two songs, one this Friday and one past Friday,
Yeah.
and they were both the same thing where they just kind of happened like that,
Mhm.
and I released them almost immediately. They're done.
Yeah.
I find the second I start to put too much effort into something or try to force the way it feels, I lose my connection to the song,
Yeah.
and I don't want to do that.
Mhm. And
Um,
how important would you say the car test is?
I think for a lot of people, it's really important. It's become less important to me over the years.
Mhm.
As I've gotten nicer speakers and a nicer studio room,
Mhm.
and got better at mixing, I now trust my speakers in the studio so that the car doesn't need to be done as much. The car is really just a reference speaker for me. It's no different than me listening on my headphones.
Mhm.
Um, for me, the car test isn't even so much about like, is the mix right? It's, I'm playing my song my whole way home
Mhm. Yeah.
because I love it so much.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that in other terms, I mean, car tests are important as much as headphone tests
Mhm.
because it's how are other people going to hear this song? Not everyone's listening through a studio system.
Yeah.
How are other people going to experience my song is really important.
Mhm. And I don't know if you get this feeling, but it's like when I've ghosted up for someone, their song finally comes out. I've gone in the car and done the car test for myself, and it's like
Yeah.
you get you kind of get that kind of egotistical like feeling towards yeah, like damn that I wrote this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when I sent Jake Luke the verse for No One, I
Mhm.
knew it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't even, I wonder if I can find where I sent this to him so I can, like, I said something ridiculous to him, I think. Um shouldn't be too long ago. November. He's such a good guy too. You should really check him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
He's
almost here.
featured a couple of times on your album, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Mhm.
Twice, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's really the only feature on there. So, but we just hit it off so much when we met that we just wanted to keep creating together.
Mhm.
Let's see, I'm almost here. Mm. Sorry, this is taking so long.
Yeah, no worries, bro.
Here it is. Yeah, I had sent it to him, and I didn't say, and it's not even gonna focus really. I sent it to him, and I didn't even send a message with it,
Yeah.
and he just said, "Motherfucking goddamn dude." Um, and then I said, "I'm gonna put it on my album,"
Yeah, yeah,
because it was his song. So,
yeah.
um, and then he agreed that that was a cool thing, and I asked him, and
Mhm.
I told him I appreciated him, and we were gonna do great, and it did do great. So it feels great. Um, and I think he may have added a layer to it after that, but he said that it was all matched and the production felt perfect. So it just worked, man. I really try not to force these relationships, even when it comes to doing verses for people.
Mhm.
I don't really like charging people for verses unless
No.
I don't see myself on the song.
Mhm.
So I mean, I had someone DM to me today, and they said, "I want you on a drill song." And I said, "Well, send me a song. If I
Yeah.
like it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like the conceited energy around hip hop, because it doesn't match up with who I want to be.
Mhm. Yeah. I. So we talked about your newest album. Sorry, I'm bipolar. Uh, but let's go on to your first. Is it your first studio album? What if I never told you, or why I never told you?
I, it was really supposed to be like a mixtape,
Mhm.
um, even though it's listed as an album on Spotify. So really, the Sorry I'm Bipolar is really my first album,
Mhm.
in my opinion. But what I never told you was kind of just an experiment of sounds. Um, and I actually personally like that project. I think it's got some really good stuff on there.
Mhm.
Um, but the problem with that project was I did it really fast. I made that whole project in like 2 weeks or something,
Yeah.
and some of the mixing on the album is not very good.
Mhm.
My studio wasn't up to par then. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after that, you went on to release an EP with Coley called "After All This Time." So how was that? Recording a duo kind of EP mixtape type of thing.
It's so funny. I feel like you know more about my music than I do.
I
Um,
have
I love
I
that
have
you've
to know
done your
you, man.
research. Yeah,
Thank you,
you're
bro.
like Nardwar.
No, I'm not that good. I'm not that good.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully,
Um,
hopefully.
so Coley has been a good friend of mine for about 10 years, maybe a little less than that.
Mhm.
Maybe 8 years. And she's just always been a great singer. And I think she came over to the studio one day, and I think we just cranked out two of these songs, and we're like, let's just do a couple more and just make it an EP. I think we made this in a week,
Hmm.
and we did half the production ourselves, and some of it was done from Encore, I believe. And there's some good songs on there.
Mhm.
It was a fun little tape. I'm actually in the process. I'm trying to release another tape right now. It was supposed to come out like 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
but I didn't. I got really sick about a month ago with like COVID or something, and I was out for like 3 weeks. So I didn't get to record all the songs I wanted to for the project.
Mhm.
So it's gonna come out when I get back. I'm on vacation right now. I'm in California.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
How is
so
Cali, bro?
it's a rainstorm right now, but
Oh,
it's
damn.
been really nice to get out of Michigan for a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so expect a new EP, maybe like 6 to 10 songs in mid March.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, sounds good. So, what advice would you give to like aspiring rappers? Because, like, for example, I've ghostwritten for 6 years now, and
Okay.
I wanna like finally start to bite the bullet and record music for myself. So, like,
Yeah. Have you not?
no, I've never actually recorded
Oh
anything for
my
myself.
gosh, man.
Like when I've ghost
Um.
wrote for people, I've always recorded the type of flow I was thinking,
Yeah.
but I've
I
never,
think you just have to do it, man.
yeah.
It's it's going to be such a riveting and exciting experience for you, and it's going to be cruel too. You're going to be, I hate my voice, I love it, I hate it.
Yeah,
It's going to be it's going to be a roller coaster. I think some of my greatest joys in creating music came from those very early days.
mhm,
So I think you're in for a wild, beautiful ride. But the biggest piece of advice I could say to give you is listen for advice,
mhm,
ignore the hatred,
yeah,
and be as persistent as you want to be successful.
mhm, yeah,
So, it's important when someone says, "Hey, I don't like this," that you don't listen to that. When someone says, "Hey, I think your vocals are a little too quiet," that's good advice to listen to.
mhm,
"Hey, it sounds like you're not being, emphatic enough." That's good advice to listen to,
mhm,
but only when you feel the same.
yeah,
So it's important to take that criticism in a way that makes sense to you.
mhm,
Um, so if you agree with it, make changes.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's really important not to tie yourself so tightly to the artwork that when someone says they don't like it, you feel like they don't like you.
mhm,
So just make sure you're really honest within the art process too, with
mhm,
your own emotions when you're capturing them.
yeah.
Um,
What advice would you give to like finding your rap voice? It's because like I've tried to make songs, but I've always listened back and I've been like, yeah, this ain't it, this ain't it.
yeah, I I have I don't even want to say this out loud. I have old songs on SoundCloud from like 2013
Mhm,
when I had a rap voice and I was trying to sound real cool,
mhm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's horrible. There is no such thing as a rap voice.
Yeah.
Use your voice. That's what people already love you for
Mhm,
and will love you for. Now, if you're trying to do something very specific, like sometimes I might use like a more nasally tone, that's fine, but I'd say your grassroots starting line should be using your regular talking voice. So I rap in this voice that you're hearing right
yeah.
now.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll
And
definitely work
and I
on that.
regretted not doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely put that into work. Do you like recommend any specific software to use, like
Um,
starting out for rappers?
like for mixing,
Yeah, just for mixing, recording, like just making a song.
I'm a really big fan of Ableton Live.
Mhm.
It's the main software that I use, but I recommend whatever software works for you. I
Okay.
mean, we're at a point in the day and age where Logic, Pro Tools, Ableton, Studio One, they're all the same. They're
Mhm.
just different avenues of getting to the same product. So, whatever one resonates the most with you. I mean, most of them have free trials. Give them all a shot. See which one you like.
Yeah, yeah.
There's really no right answer for that anymore. Um, Now, like for example, people around me, they usually end up getting Ableton because they have direct access to me where I can answer any of their questions.
Mhm.
But I would tell them the same thing.
Yeah.
And just to touch a little bit more on that last question that you said, I found that I was using a rap voice because I was scared that people wouldn't like me if I used my own voice.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
I thought that I had this irrational fear that if people didn't like it when I used this fake voice, I could write it off because I was like, that's not me anyway.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
if I used my real voice and people didn't like it, I would feel like they didn't like me.
Mm.
And I think that's the same reason people aren't authentic in their music as well. Because if someone says, "Oh, well, you're such a," I've heard it a million times. "Oh, you're a pussy. All you do is cry in your music and this and that."
Mm.
It doesn't bother me anymore. But people are so afraid to be authentic because they're scared to expose themselves. But I think that's one of the healthiest things you can do in music.
Mhm.
It's a therapeutic tool, but there's also having fun in it. But it's all healing for different ways.
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't say you have to make sad music. I mean, the fun music and even like if you're doing like funk or something and it's like more aggressive
Mhm.
and it's still fun. I mean, it's healing you in different ways. But I think the only way to disrespect the craft is to lie.
Mm. Yeah. I'll take those tips and I'll try and like work on them a bit because
Yeah,
So,
and honestly, feel free to send me whatever you work on. I will give you unadulterated, honest feedback.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course.
So, Eon, did you grow up listening to rap, or was it something that you found
I did
in like?
not. I didn't find rap until I was in like high school.
Mm,
And my dad, he's a musician. He played guitar, and he was in a lot of bands. I grew up on like blues, jazz, and rock and roll.
mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really introduced to rap that I even liked until high school.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a fan of a lot of radio rap because it was, bitches this, bitches that, and it never
Yeah.
resonated with me. Um, and once I found some underground cats late high school is when I really fell in love with hip hop, and I was like, this stuff's really cool.
Mm,
I didn't know music could make me feel this way,
yeah.
and that's kind of why when I decided to become a part of the hip hop community, I was like, I want to create this feeling for other people,
Mm-hmm.
and that was that.
Nice one. So, when you started getting into rap, who were some of the inspirations like you had? Some of your favorite rappers?
And, when I first started, I was huge on this group called Atmosphere.
Hmm.
Um, and then I really liked this group called Shitty Bang out of Philly.
Yeah, yeah,
And outside of those two guys, I was just hell bent on old school hip hop.
yeah,
I ended up getting a tattoo for Wu Tang.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Wu Tang Clan.
um,
Yeah.
yep, and that was huge for me. I loved Wu Tang, everything that they were doing, and I was using Pandora at the time because that was like a good way to listen to music, and I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
just Pandora like Atmosphere and stuff, and I was just exposed to like so much incredible underground hip hop music that
Mm,
was just inspiring and creative and fun and exciting, and it
yeah.
just changed my perspective on music forever.
Mm, yeah. So I've got a question to ask. So
Yeah, let's hear it.
if I had to ask you which one do you prefer? I think I already know. But do you prefer NWA or Wu Tang? Which one?
I have to go Wu Tang for sure.
Yeah.
Um, NWA may have done more for the hip hop culture as a whole,
Mhm.
but I respect Wu Tang so much. I even read one of their books. I think it's called The 12 Disciples or something. Let me look it up for you real quick.
Mm.
It was written by RZA,
Okay.
which is one of the rappers and the producers of Wu Tang.
Mhm.
It's called The Book of Tao,
Okay.
or The Tao of Wu. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and it's an incredible book that I really recommend.
Mhm.
And what was so amazing about these guys is they were all from like Staten Island and,
Mm.
and stuff and Brownsville, New York.
Yeah.
And they were from these slums, and then the things that they grew obsessed with of like they fell in love with kung fu and Taoism, and it was just, I found it very profound that the people that came from such a difficult background could find so much community in hip hop and then find enough people to create the Wu-Tang Clan
Mm.
where all their heads were kind of in the same place and they could just create art in a way that made them feel free.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to me.
And that's what I like about Enter the Wu Tang is that you can tell that each member had their own idea for the album.
Yeah.
It's like every song there's different people who are rapping. It's not the same two, three artists every song. You've always got a mix of artists throughout the album.
And I would say there's groups in hip hop that are better than them for sure. Like at the same time period, like Slum Village.
Mm,
I think they were better,
yeah,
but Wu Tang was more fun for me.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So what's your preference on the Biggie v Tupac debate?
I knew you were just gonna ask me. I knew it was coming. This is what I always say to everyone. I think Biggie's a better rapper, and I think Tupac made better music.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I probably agree.
Um,
Yeah.
I just think, I mean, Biggie was clearly more technically skilled, and Tupac made more digestible music. And that's
Mhm.
again kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Is it doesn't matter how good you are if it's not digestible. I think if Biggie was a better songwriter,
Mhm.
he would have been a way bigger artist than Tupac ever was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Alright, so what are some influences that you follow now? Like when you're creating a song, do you like look up to an idol and think, I want to be where they're at?
That's a really good question. Some of my favorite artists, when it comes to emotional rap music, I think NF is leading the pack.
Mhm. Yeah.
When it comes to creative underground rap, I thought Mac Miller led the pack.
Yeah.
When it comes to someone that would like to bleed genres, it was good at hip hop and like folk music and stuff as well. I thought Post Malone led the pack.
Mhm.
When it comes to direct pop music, I think Ed Sheeran. When I think of a darker pop sound, I think Billie Eilish.
Mhm.
When I think of folk music, I think of Noah Khan.
Mhm.
Um, I would say all those people inspire me greatly, depending on the style of music I'm making.
Mhm. Okay. So I asked the last rapper who came on the show, but I'm gonna ask you as well. If tomorrow you went into a studio and you could record a song with literally anyone, an R&B singer, a pop singer, a rapper, who would you choose?
Is this
This,
something to release publicly?
this it could be either just for yourself or it could be to release to the
Well, just
public.
my answer would change, right? So it's like if it was something that's going to be released publicly for my career, I'd pick Taylor Swift because I think she has the
Yeah,
biggest reach out of everybody,
yeah, yeah.
Um, if it was just for me, then like no one else could hear the song, I'd probably pick Dead or Alive, maybe Mac Miller, Just Alive, maybe NF.
Hmm.
But even then, I don't know.
I reckon we
There's
get
just
an EON Zero and NF collab.
I think it's in the works.
Yeah,
You know, you just have to wait and see.
yeah. Another rapper that could work well with you is Hobson. I don't know if you're a
Yeah, I
fan of him.
actually he was actually one of my favorite rappers when I was in 2015. He was like my favorite rapper.
Hmm.
Um, I opened up for them in Michigan
Mm.
when they were on tour,
Yeah, yeah,
and that was pretty cool.
yeah. Uh,
So like it was weird though because I just like went to a meet and greet and I ended up doing a song with Jaron Benton
mm.
because I talked to them and I was like gave them like a mixtape I was working on and they were super cool. And I did a song with Dizzy Wright back then too,
Hmm.
who was on Hobson's label.
Hmm.
So that was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
A couple of my co-hosts are massive fans of Hobson, so they're gonna be so jealous listening back to this, bro.
Yeah, and I let me pull this up for you. I because I had a picture of Hobson and I. Um, they used to let you pick like a top 5 songs on or a top 5 pictures on Facebook, and it was so easy to find this. But I'm gonna find it for you real quick here because I think it's valuable. Uploads. It's gonna be pretty far back. Um, it's gonna be hard to show you. It's always like going through these. Like memory lane.
Yeah.
Um, it's crazy how long I've been doing music. It trips me up a little bit.
Yeah. Do you ever get that feeling where you just step back and you're like, damn, I've actually created something
Yeah,
great.
yeah, I feel that way a lot now. I can't wait for the world to catch up with how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm at a point right now where I feel really blessed because I show people my music, and the worst thing that I hear now is it's not for me, but it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here we
Damn.
have
Yeah, yeah,
Hobson holding an Eon Zero poster
yeah, yeah,
after a show, and then this was me performing with them.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, and it was a really great crowd too.
Yeah, yeah. That's That's pretty packed. Yeah.
Um, and then there's Jaron Benton and DJ Hoppa.
Mhm.
Um, so I love all those guys. They were a huge inspiration for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I need to hear a Hobson and Neon Zero song now.
Hey, my friend, one of my good friends has a song with Hobson, so
Mm.
I think it's very plausible. It's just I need to work on my marketing a bit more because
Yeah.
I really think that when more people hear me, I think that it's gonna be a big thing. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And that's all ego set aside. I think I've really reached a level musically where I can put a dent in the industry.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you have a favorite kind of like hip hop movie? So obviously you've got Sheriff Compton or you've got 8 Mile. Do you have like a personal favorite type of?
Um, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick 8 Mile.
Mm.
I think what it represents in hip hop is how I feel about hip hop.
Yeah.
With that final battle where he exposes himself completely,
Yeah.
saying, "I have this problem. I have this. I am
Yeah.
this. I'm this." So the guy had nothing to say. That's how I feel about hip hop. I think when you're so transparently honest with the world around you,
Mm.
that you take away the power of the people that want to tear you down.
Yeah. Yeah. I.
And I think
Yeah.
it embodies the way I feel.
Yeah. I well. Yeah. I get what you mean that. I. I've scrolled through a lot of your Instagram reels just trying to get like
Oh God.
a vibe from you. But I've always looked at the comments and I've never really seen a hate comment. So you must be doing something
Yeah,
right.
and I leave them too. I don't delete them either. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um, there is people like there was just a couple weeks ago. I can't remember which video it was. Someone was like, "You're a loser,"
yeah.
some bullshit. It just makes me laugh.
Hmm.
You know.
Thing is, it's like your levels above him. So
Yeah,
it's kind
and
of like.
I think the correct way to handle all of that is with empathy. So I'm going to give you a great example.
Hmm.
I had a kid comment a hate comment on one of my posts, a reel maybe a year or two ago, and he's like, "This is fucking garbage."
Hmm.
And I responded to him and I said, you know, it still means a lot that you listen to it, so thank you.
Yeah.
And he responded and said, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I actually do kind of like it." He's
Yeah.
just like, "I'm having a bad day," essentially.
Yeah.
And then I went back and forth with him for a while, and now he's one of my biggest fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the correct way to handle all of these things is just with compassion.
Hmm.
And people don't want to be mean,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean you're going to win everyone over the way I won this guy over. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, when you respond with compassion, you remove their ability to hate you with logic.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much else you can do.
Yeah. It's sad as well. It's like the bigger you get, the more haters you get along the way as well. So it's like there's highs and lows
Yeah.
of the music game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you find like like life experiences or like um stuff that's going on in the world right now? Do you feel like that has an impact on your writing or your rapping or what you speak about?
Only in the way that it affects me. Um, and I don't know if that's a lot right now.
Hmm.
Um, in the past, I definitely had made a lot of maybe like politically charged music or something of that nature, but I decided to step away from doing things like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but no, I would say only in my own personal life does it really affect the creative process.
Hmm. And you showed the picture of you and Hobson playing together. Have you
Yeah.
done many tours?
I've done some small stuff, and I've played some music festivals in Atlanta, like A3C, and I've played a ton of shows, like so many shows. It's been a while because with COVID really slowed everything down, but I've done a ridiculous amount of shows
Mm-hmm.
um in the Midwest,
Yeah.
and I would love to get back to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just it's only valuable to me when there's there's a crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, I see low value in going to perform for a bunch of people that already like me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome maybe like once or twice a year, but if I'm doing that every couple weeks,
Yeah.
I'm spending a very, very large amount of time and energy to impress people that I've already impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I really need to focus on impressing new people.
Yeah. Do you personally feel like there's been a rapper in the past few years that's completely changed up the scene or changed the way of hip hop that has allowed you to do what you do now?
Hmm. Not in recent years, no. Um, I love that NF was able to create a huge fan base without a giant social media
Mm-hmm.
um, like presence.
Yeah.
Um, I love what Hobson did with Funk Volume, but again, I think that's not within the last couple of years. That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and he made it possible for independent artists to have a very big career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel the same way about what Mac Miller did. He found a way to be so authentic and make authentic hip hop popular.
Mm-hmm.
I think hip hop before Mac, not all of it, but at least mainstream, because Mac went mainstream, um, felt very constructed. And his music didn't feel constructed, it felt authentic. And it was really nice to see that at a global scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll just ask a couple of more questions because I'm sure you want to get on with your holiday. Um,
It doesn't matter. I'm happy to
so
be here.
so you mentioned earlier on if you were to make a song with someone and it's gonna be released to the public, you said Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Do you have do you think that she's overrated or kind of like underrated, or do you think that
Hmm.
she's perfectly rated at the moment?
I think, doing over under is actually a really good segment you should probably add to your show.
Yeah.
Um, I think Taylor Swift is slightly overrated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think she's incredibly gifted and incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Do I think she should be like the number one artist in the world? Maybe not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, it's up for so much debate. She's done an incredible amount of work, and she's one of the greatest songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so definitely, absolutely no hate towards her in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the hype is high,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. I okay. And to find one final question before I leave you, what's one of your favorite songs from the discography that you made and it's like still got a huge impact on you, like even to this day listening to it?
Let's see. I'm gonna go over a couple that just don't have any reach,
Mm-hmm.
but that mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
Um, can you still hear me with the mic on the
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
bed?
still here.
Cool, cool, cool. I think. Hmm, I think "Waste My Time" is my best rock song by
Yeah.
far. I really like the song called "One Day" from 2020. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's very powerful. Um, I really like "Lost My Mind" from 2020. Maybe one of my best pop songs.
Mm-hmm.
I like "Let It Go" from 2019. It's a rap song. I think it's just really, really well polished.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, we have "No Words." "Lonely Road's" really good. There's a lot of good stuff in there, man. A lot of bad stuff too, but mostly good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I
I
okay.
try not to get rid of the bad stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's best for rappers. It's like r- rappers, you're not gonna get it right every time.
No.
You're gonna have some highs
And
and lows.
And I think there's magic, it's happened to me and it's happened to my friends where I've deleted a song off SoundCloud that sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And I had people message me, "Where did it go? I listen to that
Yeah.
song all the time." And I'm like, "All right, it's not about me, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
So who am
Yeah.
I to take it down?"
Exactly. Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll let you. I'll let you go. Um.
Sure, and if you need anything at all, brother, hit me up. I'm happy to listen to your music.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give you advice. If you're listening to this and you want advice, feel free to hit me up. I will be honored to help you or be a part of your creation.
And if you want to contact Eon Zero, I'll leave his Spotify, his Instagram, and everything in the link below. So go and check him out. Get his numbers up.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and I appreciate you greatly.
Yeah, I appreciate you as well, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, anytime.